Boothill released not too long ago, and yet he still was able to become one of my favorite characters so freaking quickly. Like, the fact that he's both really smart as a Galaxy Ranger, but at the same time, he's incredibly stupid, makes me adore him so much. And then you add onto the fact that he has that mouth of a sailor, and you have me instantly hooked. But then Hoyoverse could have stopped there, right? And but they didn't. They made him even better by giving him a censoring function to his robot body, and it just increases comedic value through the roofs that it makes me just love this character so freaking much. Especially because of all the dialogue that he has, including the moments when he tried to play it off as if he was being a new member of the Astral Express when he arrived at the Penacony checkout. And then on top of that, he tried to steal Pom Pom's identity. Like, that was just absolutely golden, and it made me so freaking happy. As a whole, I feel like Boothill stands out among other characters, both by the way that he was designed, but also because of the fact that he is the first Galaxy Ranger that we officially meet. Which honestly was also such a nice and amazing bait and switch from Hoyoverse's storytelling. Like, we were led to believe that Acheron was a Galaxy Ranger, only for the lore to tell us that we were all wrong, we're all being deceived, that she's an imposter, and the plot thickened so amazingly, and it just was incredible, and it just made it that much more impactful when he was revealed to be the first one, and he was assuming that Acheron was tarnishing the Galaxy Ranger's name. So I feel like that just left a lasting impression on me, and that is awesome. And also, just don't get me started on the fact that this character is so loved by the community, both by just random people that like Boothill, but also Boothill mains, right? The amount of memes and fan art that I have seen is absolutely wonderful, and it amuses me how many people want to smash Mr. Android Man, despite the fact that his body is fully mechanic and he would not really be able to feel anything or even have any systems to function in that kind of way. I would also like to take this opportunity real quick to give a quick shout out to Mr. Tave, well, not even Mr. Dr. Tavad Barista, an amazing content creator. He has made some amazing TikTok content, including one about Boothill that lives rent-free in my mind that I'm going to link down in the description because it made me laugh so freaking much. And he was also a guest in one of our game shows that I helped to co-host. On top of that, I also do want to add the fact that the song Good Looking by Dixon Dallas has been ingrained in my mind and I cannot get it out. I can also not get out the version that was made by both Andrew Russell and Nicholas Leong. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the last name correctly because I know that even though it looks simple, I probably did a pronunciation wrong there. So I'm sorry if I did. But that version is also stuck in my head, legitimately, and it just shows how much this character has influenced everything within my life. He's hunting down the IBC, I love the way he rides. I can hardly breathe when he's shooting up them guys. I will admit that I would have put the Dixon Dallas version there, but I do not wish to risk this video getting demonetized. Still, you should listen to both versions because goddamn, it has made me adore those things so freaking much, to the point that I didn't think it would be possible. That being said though, throughout this video, I wish to explore Boothill's character design, going over his gameplay, flavor design, and the impact that he has had on the story. For more information on these categories, please feel free to check out my video on Star Rail's best designed characters, where I go more in depth about these topics and give out fleshed out explanations on them, and even give out examples for both good and bad designs, in my opinion. However, just to go shortly over every category, in terms of gameplay, we have anything related to the combat system in Star Rail. That would be their attacks, their ultimates, their skills, any synergies, even the passive abilities. While on the other hand, we have flavor design, which is anything not related to the combat, and it is very, very influenced by my own bias, so I do want to disclaimer that. And in here we have animations, voice lines, aesthetics, synergies here as well, because it might feel great when two characters just connect so well together in the story and in the combat system as well. And I don't know, I just personally feel like this one is the one that I get influenced more by. And last but not least though, we have impact, which I would refer to the story relevance of the character, and it may also include whether it be in the Trailblaze mission, in the world itself, or if another character within the game, whether they be playable or not, had like an influence on them or vice versa. So it's a very vital part in my opinion for the world building of the game. But with all that being said and done and out of the way, let us see why Boothill is perfectly designed. Starting things off, I want to go a bit over Boothill's kit, because god damn it, they did such a beautiful job with adding so much flavor into his kit. Like, they took the space cowboy concept and went incredibly literal on it, and he is the combination of both advanced technology and Old West aesthetics and ideology. And honestly, there's something so interesting about that parallel that just makes him shine a lot in my eyes, especially with how these two contrasting ages just mesh so well together. Starting off with his basic attack, I just personally adore how well they did with his normals, because even though it's something that is very small, it's still something that like it makes me happy to see. And it is that his regular not empowered attack is called Skull Crush Spurs, where he immediately goes for a kick rather than using his guns. And even though yes, there's much less power behind it, it's still a very strong kick. Again, it is literally a skull crashing move. But should you use his skill, he instead will be fanning the hammer, which honestly just reminds me a lot of freaking Cole Cassidy from Overwatch. Definitely back from when he used to have a different name, which for some reasons I'm not gonna go into, but I do remember, and it still haunts me to this day, that I used to do the fanning the hammer at like long range. I try to snipe people off, and in all honesty, now that I know how FPSs work, it's no wonder why I became a Junkrat main. But like, you know what, I'm going a bit off topic. Next up though, I want to go over his ultimate, which has one of my favorite mechanics in this entire game in weakness implants. Because legitimately, Dust Devil's Sunset Rodeo is one of the best things in the world, because in it we see Boothill walking around like a western field with a sun setting behind him, or I guess in front of him, since it's running away from the camera, or better said, walking away from the camera. And in the distance we see like a cactus. I'm pretty sure that there's like a tumbleweed there. Maybe I'm just imagining things. And out of nowhere, he grabs a random bounty that is floating through the air, and it essentially just screams that he has found his new target, and that, you know, that is why the enemy just gains a physical weakness, because Boothill has essentially just said, fudge you in particular, and even delays the enemy's actions by a decent margin, which just feels incredible. Like, legitimately, this feels as if Boothill is both hunting down his enemy now, but also studying to learn how to best approach and deal with them. Like, literally, they are learning how to, like, beat them by learning their weaknesses. Hence why he adds that physical weakness onto an enemy. And in all honesty, that, like, delay on the enemy's action also kind of guarantees that Boothill would have the first draw on the gun, which again, incredibly flavorful, because in these moments there used to be like the duels, right? So it is just such a cool way to combine both the cowboy aesthetics with his bounty hunter background. It's just amazing. Now, before I touch on his skill, because it's something that I really want to talk about, I want to talk about his passive talent, 5 piece in a pod. And this is how Boothill gains his stacks of pocket trickshot that further enhances damage output for every stack that he obtains. But what I personally love about this is that it kind of works like a reputation system of sorts, because every single pocket trick shot means like he won a duel. And as such, everybody knows that Boothill is the best of the best, and therefore they end up taking damage through intimidation. Like, I don't know, the reason why I further associated in this way is because of the fact that every single pocket trick shot that he gains in combat, at the end of it, he will retain them. So if you end up gaining 2 stacks against like some random enemies, the next time you enter combat against like some completely new enemies in like a completely different place, he will still have these 2 stacks, and it just feels both broken but incredibly flavorful, and that just brings me so much joy. But what I am most fascinated in is yet to come, and that is his skill and the standoff. Boothill's skill, Sizzling Tango, may just be one of the best abilities and most flavorful abilities in the entire game. Upon using his skill, Boothill challenges an enemy into a standoff, where he is only allowed to attack that enemy and then taunts them, forcing them to be only able to attack Boothill as well. And the fact that Hoyoverse was just able to implement and simulate as close as possible a 1v1 scenario in a turn-based game that has like teammates just feels so cool. Because as a matter of fact, one of the passives that he gets in one of his traits is that he takes less damage by enemies that he is not in a standoff with, which is just lovely. I know that they couldn't make it so that he cannot get targeted by anybody that he's not in a standoff with, but that is such a cool little thing that I will let it slide. That being said, though, this literally just reminds me of like a showdown between 2 cowboys where they go against each other for the quick draw, dueling for their lives, and whoever is the fastest and most accurate would be the victor. And in this case, it would be Boothill, because not only does he like excel at it, but he's someone that literally grew up in a planet filled with cowboys, and on top of that, now as essentially a cyborg, he has enhanced body parts that further help him on this. Like, I don't know, just the fact that his eyes are literal crossers feel both insane, but they look so sick, and it makes me just adore this character so much. But due to the taunt, Boothill's skill is something that I would personally consider a high risk, high reward ability, because it essentially forces an enemy, which usually you're gonna be targeting the big bad boss, to target your main squishy DPS. And it is a double-edged sword after all, since these are usually the characters that you don't want to get hit, like these are usually characters that like you're always defending, you're always dragging the aggro away through, I don't know, preservation units, or you're making sure that everybody's healed up, and sometimes you want to weave in the damage between other units such as like your healers. So it's really interesting that he works in this way. However, you're also able to manage the taunt turns in a way that just feels very, very smart and incredible. Because, for context, at the start of every one of Boothill's turns, the enemy's taunt counter will be reduced by 1. Meaning that if you somehow do get to have 3 turns in a row before the enemy gets a turn, and you didn't weakness break them, they will lose the taunt, so they can now attack another ally. That being said, though, another way to remove the taunt is to either murder the enemy or weakness break the enemy. Now, when you weakness break the enemy, you still want to target that enemy because they take increased damage when their weakness broken. But it is just something that, again, is it feels like a high risk, high reward, but at the same time feels like it was so well designed for Boothill to be both very sneaky but also very front and front, like an actual honorable duel, and that makes me really happy. Something that also kind of blew my mind away, by the way, is the fact that, like, I want to talk a little bit about Boothill's stats because when I kind of like looked into them, they looked kind of like average. Like more than anything, they were above average, right? He had like decent attack, decent speed, decent like everything. Uh, but what blew my mind though is that, you know, it makes sense for his abilities. No, that for his stats to look like this because after all, he does scale up with break effect, and that's where most of his damage is coming from. And these statistics that I made do not take break effect into account. However, can someone explain to me why the Harmony Trailblazer has more defense than Aventurine, Japard, and even the Preservation Trailblazer? Because that is a mystery that I cannot figure out and that blows my mind away. I'm actually really surprised that I have been able to talk so much about Boothill's kit alone. Like legitimately, I missed making these videos. And a quick little tangent from the content right now. I just want to say, hey, sorry for being gone for like literal 6 weeks. That is literally a whole Honkai Star Rail patch right there. I went through without uploading a single video or showing signs of life. But I do want to say that I appreciate you all for sticking around and being here. And hey, if you're new, hello. I hope you're liking the video so far. And if you like this sort of content, there's a lot more here on this channel. So I do want to invite you to subscribe if possible. It is free. It only takes a second. And if you ever feel like my quality is dropping off or you just don't like the videos anymore, you're more than welcome to unsubscribe. I do like these sort of deep dives into characters. Beyond just the lore and gameplay, I do like the game, like design aspect of these things, so I want to talk about these. And it honestly feels like it's such a great discussion to have about these characters in the comments. And I do want to again like make this content because I enjoy it and it's so much fun. I especially love hearing from the community from both ends. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to this message. And back to the video, meaning back to talking about Boothill. Something that honestly caught me so off guard was how freaking tragic Boothill's backstory is. Like, yeah, he is a cyborg that essentially lost his entire body and potentially any of the senses that come with those body parts that he lost, but holy whoopaboo. Hoyo didn't have to do him so freaking dirty. To start off real quick with his lore, essentially, he was abandoned in the middle of the snow and got picked up by a couple called Gray and Nick. And under their care, he grew up to be the amazing person that he is. And in a sort of irony of life, he grew up and found a little baby and took her in as his daughter, naming him Gray, which, is after the woman that adopted him and took care of him, which honestly is something so sweet and wholesome and adorable, and it makes my heart melt. Surely nothing is gonna go wrong. Nothing bad's gonna happen to this happy family. It's what I would like to say. But then everything changed when the IPC Corporation attacked. During this time, Boothill, alongside his companions and his friends, had to resort to guerrilla warfare techniques and strategies to fight off the IPC, who possessed technology far beyond any that the cowboys from Aragon Efarsel, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, had ever seen. Like, in terms of raw power, the IPC was no match. So they were literally fighting an impossible battle and held their ground purely through skill and strategy, which honestly you do have to respect a lot. Sadly, the IPC hadn't even begun to actually fight, and that is when things became incredibly grim. Boothill was able to sneak into an IPC vessel by putting on a worker's uniform, and it is here when he overhears a conversation that would change his life forever. He saw the figure of a man who seemed to be saying something to his subordinates. Irregan Efarsel contains crucial strategic resources. He who claims it first will take great advantage in departmental competition, and these savages and uncivilized cowboys are unwilling to cooperate with the marketing development department. We have no choice but to assume administration of this world on their behalf. We are running out of time. You are permitted to use military force and bring civilization to this world. Upon hearing this, he ran to his family to save them as he heard employees laughing at the fact that they were giving authority to attack and conquer without worry, all by orders of one man, Oswaldo Schneider. Boothill ran as fast as he could, but by the time that he made it home, there was nothing left of it, nor was there anything left of his family. He couldn't even hold a proper burial for his parents that raised him or his adoptive daughter who had just recently started walking because there was nothing left of any of them. And that is incredibly messed up. Also, I do want to point out that the things that the IPC was looking for in this planet was a black ore. It was a black metal that they use for armory, for weaponry. And when you kind of look at it, it is the IPC staff enemies that are wearing this ore as their armor, meaning that when Boothill is fighting the IPC, he is not only fighting them just because, they are horrible people, but he has to be constantly be reminded by the fact of his planet through the armor that he is shooting the enemies through. However, though Boothill had survived, he still, over time, in his hunt for the IPC, ended up suffering massive damage to his body, to the point where he essentially had to fully change himself to survive. He had to sail towards a second life, where and here is where he gained his robotic body, one that helps him survive and succeed in dangerous missions, but came at the greater cost of, well, his inability to swear again, but also his body. And this is when he abandoned his previous name, one that we don't really know, but apparently, according to his lore, meant loaded gun in his native tongue, and where he adapted the name Boothill in honor to his family, and is what I presume at least, as Boothill is something that is known to be a grave for gunslingers. And this essentially makes him a walking memory of those that he couldn't save. In this new life, he ended up learning that the records of the man that had ordered the annihilation of his entire planet had been erased from history. And you know, even like we know that that works. We know that Boothill is a badass, Muddle Fudger. I was writing that in and I had trouble saying it. I don't know why. But, anyways, he is amazing. And he was able to track down the Garden of Recollection. And this is how he gained the knowledge of Oswaldo Schneider's name. And now he travels to serve justice to anyone who might need it, anyone who needs help. And the fact that even though he's a bounty hunter, the fact that he has morals just makes me adore him so much. Now, what I'm going to mention next is a bit of speculation, but something that I personally am looking forward to and potentially is the fact that there could be not only just like a Boothill and Aventurine team up, but it might even involve Argenti. And that just sounds amazing. Let me explain. Towards the end of the 2.2 story quest, we are left with the encounter between Aventurine and Boothill, where Boothill has Aventurine cornered and pointing a gun at him, demanding that he tells him how he can get to Oswaldo Schneider. And this is where it all just feels to fall and align into a perfect place, because the two of them have their own reasons to be angry and seek revenge against Oswaldo Schneider. For context, remember how the Afghans got annihilated in Sigonia? Yeah, so apparently when the Catechans were plotting to attack the Afghans requested help from the IPC. They wanted protection, they wanted help, and they specifically asked it from the marketing developing department, a name that sounds all too familiar now, doesn't it? So they essentially said, yes, we're gonna help, and then when the day came, they just didn't appear. They didn't even bother. So that was awful. They just left them to their own devices, and that is how everyone but Kakavasha died. And that is incredibly tragic. So, in all honesty, it is a cool concept for these two to end up teaming up together and, be the ones to take down Oswaldo Schneider. They both have their reasons to hate the IPC and this man in particular. And furthermore, in Boothill's little teaser infographic thing, I'm not sure what exactly it is called, but in it, at the very bottom, we can see a message from Aventurine that reads, well, best of luck to you, friend. And I want to emphasize that friend because we know that friends are very important for Aventurine in both of both his schemes, but also because he genuinely cares for certain people as friends and wants the best for them. So the fact that he's actually calling Boothill a friend means that they are at least mutually beneficial to each other and they have some sort of respect towards one another. Eventually even mentions that he wants friends that, are definitely useful to him. So even though the two of them have bounties on each other, them working together is something that I find to be pretty funny. Additionally, I know that I mentioned Argenti, and this is where I'm gonna get into it because it is just really interesting that he has just been a solitary party randomly appearing in Penacony, and it's kind of wild because apparently during this time he was able to befriend Boothill and Aventurine, so that just is a quick way to make a connection again furthermore between these two. And I don't know, just the fact that like Argenti does kind of respect them both is something that like might be enough for him to want to help. He might be convincing them the whole time to like accept and drill into their lives, but like he might be willing to help. Heck, he even says in again one of Boothill's infographics, allow me to praise you. Elegant words are a good symbol of interstellar communication. Well, heck, as we know, it's just like the fact that he like takes the time to like appreciate and care for Boothill just feels perfect. And for Aventurine, well, we know that he was the one that saved him from his fate after Acheron literally sent him on an almost one-way ride to the end of his life. Also, before wrapping up this segment, I do want to add the fact that like Boothill's voice line about Argenti just sounds really cool, and I love it because it further reinforces the fact that I want to see them teaming up and just working together.
Funny how fate works. We crossed paths before. Finding someone in this vast universe with such similar tastes ain't easy, you know. Both of us clad in silver, both packing heat. The cherry on top, we're both oozing with righteousness. Knights of Beauty and Galaxy Rangers. Who will let us join forces?
Oh, yeah, also, one last thing before I wrap up this like whole like theory and everything. Something that I do find to be quite interesting and that I want to add is just that like I really hope that this friendship that is to be formed between Boothill and Aventurine makes it so that Boothill no longer sees Topaz in a bad light, because although he hears that she is one of the good people in the IPC, he still bundles her up with every one of the IPC goons and all the evil people, which would honestly sadden Numby, and we don't want to see a sad Numby. And on top of that, something that I thought was quite mind-blowing is the fact that apparently Oswaldo Schneider is on top of both Aventurine and Topaz in ranking. Like, from the story, we learned that Topaz gets demoted from P45 to P44 after what happened in Jarello 6, and this is how Aventurine essentially became her boss, because he still was a P45 member at the very least. And given the fact that he was saying that, oh, I'm your boss now, it probably implies that he was a P45. And the reason why I say that Oswaldo Schneider outranks him is because from doing some research, it seems like he is a P47 member of the IPC. That is also why he is the head of his own department, which is insane that he's outranking two cornerstones. So I really do wish to hope more. I really wish to learn more about this individual. And lastly, what like just further breaks my mind away is this quick little fact, and it is that Albert, in one of the trailers for Star Wars and the Myriad Celestia trailers, he literally mentions how Oswaldo is a nameless.
Do you have the thrill of adventure coursing through your veins? If so, our marketing development department is rolling out the red carpet just for you. With the nameless Oswaldo Schneider leading the way, a vast number of new worlds will soon be a part of our expansive credit system.
And yeah, no, like legitimately, this is like not anything that I like ever expected, and I don't think I've heard many people talk about this, because upon again doing a little bit of further research and like looking through Reddit and everywhere that I could find, apparently in the Chinese version of the game, when you look through the actual Chinese words, the marketing developing department reads like this. I'm not gonna read it actually because I'm gonna butcher it, but something that I thought was really cool is that when you look at the Trailblaze, it reads like this. Notice how the Trailblaze is essentially inside of the marketing development department? Yeah. Apparently, it is actually called something similar to the Trailblaze department or something, which is insane, and it blows my mind. And like the fact that Oswaldo Schneider is also kind of tarnishing the name of the nameless is fucked up, but also a plotline that I want to see Because if it is true that Oswaldo is a nameless, it could either mean that the Astral Express might have to help him at times, kind of, or in any case, we as the Astral Express have to go and tell him to fudge off because he's being an awful just individual. I'm trying to not swear because Boothill doesn't swear, and I feel like I'm doing a horrible job. But anyways. Okay, so lastly, I want to wrap everything up with some miscellaneous things that I found that I really couldn't figure out where exactly to put them, but I still wanted to talk about them, even if it's a little bit briefly. And starting things off, it is that apparently Boothill is unable to read, as he mentions needing to use the speech to text messages function whenever he's like sending us our daily message, which on one hand could be like, he's not the brightest, but at the same time, it might just be the fact that he doesn't know how to write, even though he knows how to speak, like English or whatever we're speaking in Spaceland. Because when you look at it, right, like it is hinted that in Aragon Farcel, I keep like butchering that name, they had their own language. Like in their own language, Boothill's name meant loaded gun. So it could just be that this language that we're speaking in space is completely different to that Boothill had learned growing up. And I honestly feel that because I can kinda speak French, but if you tell me you write French, I am going to cry. Additionally, another thing that I adored when I was like seeing and looking little facts about Boothill is the fact that like his E6 shows a version of him before he had swapped his body for machinery, before he had to go that horrible and grueling surgery. And actually seeing flesh in that artwork is like insane. I feel like it's such a hidden detail, but it's still really cool because not everybody's gonna be looking at the artwork because I don't know, just nobody wants to be looking at Eidolons that they're not gonna get. And honestly, I feel that, but at the same time, I am curious and I want to see what the effects are of this perfect world that I'm never gonna reach. But I don't know. It's just this is essentially a time before he was a robot and a time before he was able to eat his own bullets, because yeah, apparently he's able to do that, and there's like a mechanism somewhere in his body that likely brings that bullet that he just ate into his gun or into his like gun arm thing, which is both really cool but like kind of disturbing. The second to last thing that I want to add is that I just adore how much he appreciates Dan Heng, and he even tries to get along well with him as a fellow brother of the hunt. Like, literally, it is so wonderful that the two of them get to meet in the story and tackle the problems in Penacony together. And I especially love the fact that his voice line about Dan Heng reads,
I've always had a thing for those Xianzhou folks. This guy's a good one. Like me, he ain't much for talking, preferring to express himself with his weapon. We're bound to hit it off.
like, I don't know, there's something about Boothill just being happy around someone with similar belief that it just feels adorable and it makes me happy, and he sounds so energetic, and that just knowing that is incredibly wholesome, especially given the fact that, as someone that is essentially living with varying bounties, some that go for 720 million to even 1 billion credits, and that's a lot of money. I feel like him having positivity and happiness in his life is something that he definitely deserves, and something that I really wish for him more, because he's such a cool character. And yeah, with all that being said and done, we have reached the end of the video. Uh, Something that has been a lot longer than I have anticipated, because looking at the timer, we are over 40 minutes long. But again, just being able to make these videos makes me incredibly happy, and the fact that I have been able to gather up my rhythm, feel up, like I can like do this research, write multiple paragraphs, because this fucking script is like 10 whole pages long. Also, I just realized, I swear, I have failed Boothill. I am sorry, but jokes aside though, no, yeah, like making a script like this makes me happy. Being immersed into like the whole lore is incredible. It just feels so much fun making these deep dive videos. So I'm glad to feel like I'm getting back into the groove of things, and I just appreciate you all a lot. I just want to say that very much, because without your guys' support, this YouTube channel would not be able to exist. If like you all didn't say, hey, like this series where like you're talking about like these characters is so much fun, like I would not have like the drive to continue doing so. And I do want to take again this moment. I know that I said it like earlier in the video, but I want to have like as a little reminder, if you reach to like this point of several hours of me rambling non-stop, that if you like this sort of content, I invite you to subscribe. It is free, it only takes a second, and if you ever feel like the quality of my content is ever dropping, you are more than welcome to unsubscribe. Something that I remember was that before I went missing, my analytics were saying that I had like I don't know, I think it was like 6% of people that watch my videos were subscribed. I know that that has dropped because again I haven't posted a video in like 6 weeks, but last I checked that was a great amount and it made me happy. So let's hope to build that number up again. I know that it's currently somewhere along 2%. Again, sorry for going missing, but again, those numbers are perfectly reasonable. Let's try to make it back to 5%. That is going to be my goal for the month of June. Make that number 5% again. But with all that being said and done, and me clapping my hands in a weird way that made a little sound, I hope you'll have a wonderful and amazing rest of your days. I want to say that I'm really grateful for you guys, that if there are things in life that you want to give a try, you definitely should. I've been watching probably a lot of Pirate Software as of recently, so his videos have also been incredibly helpful, not to mention the fact that my girlfriend has been re-encouraging me to make these videos, and it just feels great and so much fun. And again, just thank you to each and every single one of you guys. I know I'm like rambling on for like far too long, and like you're probably just being like, stop yapping in the video. So yeah, for actual real, thank you very much for watching. I hope that depending on your time zone, you're having a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, a good night, whatever time zone applies to you. And I hope to see you all in the next video. And welcome back to the channel. Bye. Actually, real quick, and this is just like a last minute recording. I'm not sure if I said thank you for 2,000 subscribers, but legitimately thank you so much. You all genuinely are the best and I appreciate you. Okay, with that being said, bye.